Right now, without thinking about it, you probably showered today or yesterday. You used soap, shampoo, maybe deodorant, maybe two kinds of deodorant. You rinsed your mouth, you put on clean clothes. And none of this felt like a choice. It just felt like being a person. But for 99% of human history, none of that existed. No soap, no running water, no deodorant, no toothbrush, no change of clothes, just you, the elements, a fire if you were lucky, and the smell of everything your body was doing all day, every day without interruption. So the question is simple. Did ancient humans smell bad? The answer is far more complicated than you expect, and it will make you look at your own morning routine completely differently. Let us start with what your body actually produces and why. Your skin has two types of sweat glands. Eccrine glands, which cover almost your entire body and produce the thin, watery sweat that cools you down, and apocrine glands, which cluster in your armpits, groin, and scalp and produce a thicker, protein-rich secretion that bacteria absolutely love. It is that bacterial activity, not the sweat itself, that produces body odor. The sweat is nearly odorless. The smell is what happens when microbes get to work on it. Here is the first counterintuitive thing. Your ancient ancestors' relationship with that bacterial ecosystem was fundamentally different from yours. Modern humans are, by the standards of almost any other period in history, obsessed with killing the microorganisms on their skin. We use antibacterial soaps, alcohol-based sanitizers, antiperspirants that physically block sweat glands. The result is a skin microbiome that has been repeatedly disrupted, stripped, and forced to rebuild itself, often with a less diverse and less stable community of microorganisms than our ancestors carried. Research by Julia O. at the Jackson Laboratory and others studying the skin microbiome has shown that less disrupted skin environments, including populations with less frequent bathing and no commercial soap use, tend to host richer and more stable microbial communities. What that means for odor is complicated. A diverse, stable microbiome does not necessarily mean a stronger smell. It often means a different smell. One that the human nose, calibrated by hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, is actually remarkably well equipped to process and interpret. Because here is something you need to understand about human smell. You are not bad at it. For decades, scientists operated under the assumption that humans were poor smellers compared to other mammals. Dogs could do it. Bears could do it. Humans had traded their olfactory sophistication for color vision and language. This was the story. Then in 2017, John McGann, a neuroscientist at Rutgers University, published a paper in Science arguing that this was a myth. McGann showed that the human olfactory bulb, the brain structure responsible for processing smell, contains roughly the same number of neurons as other mammals and is proportionally similar to many animals considered to have excellent noses. Humans, he argued, can detect and distinguish up to 1 trillion different odors. We are not bad smellers. We are extraordinarily good smellers who have simply stopped paying attention, which means your ancient ancestor was not just producing smell. They were reading it. Body odor in a pre-modern human community carried an enormous amount of biological information. Research by Klaus Wedekind at the University of Lausanne, through his now famous sweaty t-shirt experiment, demonstrated that humans instinctively prefer the body odor of people whose immune system genes, specifically the major histocompatibility complex, differ from their own. This is not a quirk. This is a deeply embedded biological mechanism that promotes genetic diversity in offspring. Your nose was, and still is, performing immunological compatibility assessments without telling your conscious mind it is doing so. Your ancestor was not just smelling. They were gathering information about who to trust, who to mate with, who was sick, who was afraid, and who was a stranger. Fear sweat smells different from exertion sweat. Illness changes the volatile compounds the body emits. Women's body odor shifts across the menstrual cycle in ways that are detectable to both men and other women. Children smell different from adults. The elderly smell different from the young. A body under stress produces a different chemical signature than a rested one. In a world without words for most of this, smell was data. Now add to this the environment your ancestor actually lived in. For most of human prehistory, people spent their days outdoors, moving through grass and forest and wind. Sleeping close to fire, which has its own powerful deodorizing and antimicrobial effects. Smoke from wood fires, which ancient humans were exposed to constantly, is an effective bacterial suppressant. It penetrates clothing and hair and skin and creates an environment deeply hostile to the specific microbes that produce the strongest body odors. Researcher Amanda Henry at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology has studied the diets and physical environments of prehistoric humans in detail and noted that the daily physical environment, not just diet, fundamentally shaped the microbial and chemical landscape of the body. Ancient humans were not sealed indoors, recycling the same air and bacteria. They were constantly flushed by wind and sun and smoke. And they were not sedentary. Walking 5 to 10 miles a day, as most hunter-gatherer populations did, and as studied populations like the Hadza of Tanzania still do, produces a very different body chemistry than the seated, climate-controlled indoor life most modern humans live. Sustained moderate activity produces sweat that, in a moving outdoor environment, evaporates quickly and does not pool in the warm, enclosed spaces where bacterial activity concentrates and intensifies. Your ancestor probably did not smell like a modern person who has not showered in a week. The specific combination of indoor air, synthetic fabrics, processed food, and disrupted skin microbiome that produces that particular modern odor did not exist. But did they smell? Yes, absolutely. Undeniably. They smelled of smoke and animal fat and dried sweat and the specific geography of wherever they had been walking. They smelled of their food, of their tools, if those tools involved animal materials, of the people they slept beside every night, of the earth. To a modern nose, encountering an ancient human would almost certainly be a significant sensory experience. The compounds we associate with body odor would be present because the biology producing them has not changed. What would be different is the context, the intensity, the specific bacterial community. The absence of the synthetic fragrances that modern people use to mask their natural chemistry and which now form our baseline expectation of what a person should smell like. And that baseline is, in evolutionary terms, brand new. For 200,000 years, the smell of other humans was not something to be hidden or eliminated. It was signal. It was identity. It was safety and danger and attraction and warning, all carried in the air between bodies that had not yet learned to be ashamed of what they were. Right now, you are masking a chemistry your body has been producing since before your species had a word for itself. And somewhere underneath the soap and the shampoo and the carefully chosen fragrance, that ancient chemistry is still running, still broadcasting, still being read by the people around you in ways neither of you will ever consciously acknowledge. You showered this morning. Your ancestors did not need to. And for 200,000 years, that was perfectly fine.